Let the house please be in order. Stand as we are led in prayer. The gentleman from Rankin, Representative Varner, will introduce our guest minister today, and then please remain standing, and Representative Varner will lead us in the pledge. Gentlemen.
Mr. Speaker, we have Jonathan Sherwin from Harmony Baptist Church in Crystal Springs here today. He's a great friend of mine, and I'm glad he's here. My wife and his wife are roommates in college, so we've known each other many, many years. So we're glad he's here, and he's going to come pray for us.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for each person, Lord, in this chamber, for waking us up this morning, for putting breath in our lungs. And Lord, may today we declare together, let everything that has breath praise the Lord. We thank you for the blessing upon this great state of Mississippi, past, present, and future. We thank you, Lord, for who you are. Lord, you are merciful, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love, and forgiving iniquity and transgression. I thank you, God, that you know us. God, I thank you that you know us where we are right now, regardless, Lord, if we're on the mountaintop or we're in the valley low. And Lord, in that, God, would you search our hearts and reveal to us who you are. And Lord, if there's anything in our hearts and our lives that would hinder the working of your Holy Spirit, God, I pray we would be willing to repent and turn to you anew, or for the countless second chance. Lord, I pray for the ministry of this chamber of representatives on behalf of the people of Mississippi. And I pray that each representative, Lord, would be who you have created and purposed them to be in this season. I pray for their families. I pray you would meet their needs physically, emotionally, financially, but more importantly, spiritually. I pray each one would allow you the opportunity to work in and through their life. And Lord, in that, I pray for a powerful move of your Spirit in this chamber, a great anointing and direction, conviction and understanding in the efforts of moving this great state forward as a light in the midst of darkness. I pray that your love would be evident among this chamber, and I pray that any strife and disunity would be subdued in Jesus' name. I pray together that we would experience your mercy and your grace and be able to administer it to others as well. And so, Lord, would you move in this great chamber for your glory, and in that would you protect it. And I pray it and I ask it in the mighty name of King Jesus. Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Close the machine, Madam Clerk.
There's a quorum present, Mr. Speaker.
We will have the reading of the journal. Gentleman from Rankin, Representative Powell, moves we dispense with the reading of the journal. All in favor say aye. Opposed no. The ayes have it. Report of select committees.
We have none, Mr. Speaker.
Report of standing committees.
We have a report on the calendar, Mr. Speaker.
Introduction of bills and constitutional amendments. Gentleman from Marion, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading of the introductions.
Is there objection? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, we will follow that procedure. Resolutions, petitions, memorials, and other papers.
We have none, Mr. Speaker.
Introduction of guests and visitors. Gentleman from Tippa, Mr. Steverson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the North Gallery, I have a dear friend. I think she's here with all the nurses, Miss Rosemary Reed from Ripley, Mississippi.
Gentleman from Jones, Mr. Scoggin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This time I would like to introduce and recognize the Mississippi Nurses Association, the Mississippi Council of Deans and Directors of the Schools of Nursing, and the Mississippi School Nurse Association. and all of the nursing students, registered nursing, and advanced practice registered nursing that are on both North and South galleries today. If y'all would stand up, please.
Welcome to you all. Gentleman from Lincoln, Mr. Mango.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the South Gallery today, we have members of the Mississippi Veterinarian Association. We also have some vet students along with some of the faculty, and we also have the new dean of the vet school, Dr. Nicholas Frank. We welcome you to your capital.
Give them a little cowbell action, boys.
Lady from Humphreys, Miss James Jones.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, and to members of the House. I am so glad to have the opportunity to have in the South Gallery fine folks from the District 51, from Yazoo and Humphreys County, Board of Supervisors President from Yazoo County, Mr. Joe Thomas, who's the son of Senator Joseph Thomas, Supervisor David Payton, Supervisor Willie Wright, and Supervisor Lee Moore of Yazoo County. And also visiting with us, we have the supervisors of Humphreys County, the president, Mr. Reggie Pinkston, and also members James Bankhead and his wife Topatha, and Mr. Nayland Lee. And of course, so very happy to have our Chancery Clerk from Humphreys County in the House, Mr. Mac Liddell Jr., and of course, the honorable daughter of Honorable Rufus Strawder, Dr. Rona Strawder, who's here with the Mississippi School of Nursing. So glad to have all of them visiting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Prentice, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Representative Carpenter and myself, I'd like for the House to join us in welcoming the Tishomingo County Supervisor, Greg Collier.
Gentleman from Jackson, Mr. Fondren.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce Jackson County Supervisor, Mr. Troy Ross, here above me in the South Gallery, and also my nurse from high school, Miss Colleen Larson. Thank y'all for being here.
Gentleman from Perry, Mr. Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like for the House to make welcome some of my Perry County supervisors in the South Gallery, Kevin Shows, Tim Wise, Robert Myers, and Cody Walters.
Gentleman from Jackson, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the South Gallery, if the House would help me welcome Supervisor Ennett Morris from District 2 of Jackson County and his wife, Miss Morris, the Vice President of the Moss Point School District. Thank you.
Gentleman from Lamar, Mr. Tubb.
Thank you, sir. It's my pleasure to introduce some of our people from Lamar County. We have two of our esteemed supervisors, Mr. Terry Bass and Mr. Mitch Brent, with us. We have our county administrator, Jody Waits, and I think our chancery clerk is Mr. Altman. Jamie Altman is supposed to be here too, but we want to welcome them in the South Gallery to the House of Representatives.
Gentleman from Hines, Mr. Gibbs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce our doctor of the day today, which is Dr. Anthony Cloy, who practices family medicine in North Jackson. So, House, let's make him welcome.
Thank you, Doc, for being here today and taking care of us. Lady from Rankin, Miss Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to recognize my predecessor from District 75, Tom Miles, also the newly elected Chancery Clerk there in Scott County. Make him welcome.
Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome. Always good to see you here. You're welcome anytime. Good to see you. Gentleman from Marshall, Mr. Kincaid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I'll introduce a friend of mine, a friend of all of ours, Mr. Ricky Flint in the North Gallery. He's Executive Director of the Stewardship Trust Fund. Give him a hand.
All right, I don't see any other introductions. I want to welcome, I was just meeting with, and they may have been crowded out of the gallery, members of the Mississippi Retired Public Employees Association, President Ann Timms, Michael Larson, Bonnie Granger, Ed LeGrand, and Sam Valentine. If they may be out of my view up there, but if y'all would, welcome them to the Capitol today. All right, I don't see any further introductions. I believe at this time we do have one item on the calendar. Gentleman from Simpson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to go to item number 1 on the general calendar, call it up, and move that the rules be suspended for consideration of the resolution.
Gentleman's motion is that the rules be suspended for consideration of the resolution. If you favor that motion, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Gentleman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that we adopt a committee sub in lieu of the original resolution.
Gentleman moves that we adopt a committee sub in lieu of the original resolution. If you favor that, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Gentlemen, you're on the committee sub.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to ask you to recognize the gentleman from Rankin to explain the committee sub.
Gentleman from Rankin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll go ahead. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, HCR 11 restores the ballot initiative process that was struck down by the Supreme Court. This resolution restores the initiative process with the following changes. This referendum will allow citizens to amend state statute. For an initiative to qualify for the ballot, there must be a minimum of 8% of the total qualified voters that sign the proposed petition. Of those signatures, there must be an equal number of signatures from each congressional district. If an initiative requires state spending, the sponsor must identify in the text the amount and the source of revenue necessary to implement. No more than 3 initiatives will be on the ballot in a given election. The first 3 the Secretary of State receives will be the 3 on the ballot. If an initiative passes, there's a 2-year waiting period for the legislature to amend any adopted initiative unless the initiative is deemed an emergency affecting public peace, health, safety, or financial solvency of the state. In this case of emergency legislation, the House or the Senate may amend or repeal the initiative by a 3/5 vote. The initiative process cannot be used for laws relating to abortion. We have added the language to protect the unborn. As many of you recall, the House passed legislation that ultimately led to overturning Roe versus Wade. By adding this exclusion to our initiative process, we reaffirm that our state's policy is to support and protect the This is our 3rd attempt to do this, and this is a vehicle that we are just trying to get to the Senate. And with that, Mr. Speaker, that's an explanation of the resolution, and I'll be glad to yield to any questions.
Questions on the resolution. Gentleman from Hines, for what purpose? I'm sorry, gentleman from Hines, Mr. Bell, has his button pushed first.
Gentlemen, you yield?
Yes, sir.
So you said you're utilizing this as a vehicle to get to the Senate?
Yes.
Do you think this is a complete vehicle? You think this is an operational vehicle? Do you think this bill is worth going to the Senate?
I do. I do.
So you made the statement about that the voters wanted the ballot initiative, correct?
100%.
Correct. So were there any thoughts or considerations to not having this abortion conversation in the ballot initiative? Because that wasn't the question about the ballot initiative, am I right?
Yeah, well, in part of what I read earlier, I mean, that was a major portion of this body, or the majority of this body, for the past 10 to 12 years. You know, we overturned Roe versus Wade, and the House spearheaded that, and absolutely, I do think so.
How many women are on your committee, gentlemen?
On Constitution?
Correct.
That's one.
You said one?
Correct.
Were they present at this meeting?
They were not.
So do you think that this individual didn't have an opportunity to express their concerns about this initiative?
You would have to ask her.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to speak on it at the appropriate time against it. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Lady from Hines, Ms. Yates, for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
I just want to go through this briefly. I did have several constituents that are interested in having the initiative process put back into place, but I want to walk through this particular proposal. It requires 8% of the qualified electors, correct?
Correct.
Assuming that all of the technical requirements are met, the Secretary of State certifies the petition. That petition is then given to us as the legislative body, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
we are able to then amend that petition, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we can make changes to it before it goes onto the ballot.
Yes, in an alternative form. We could have an alternative like we did with medical marijuana.
We can amend it or propose an alternative according to the language, is that correct?
We could.
Okay. And so then it would be voted on, and assuming it passes, it comes back to us, and then we could make changes to it again, even if we have already amended it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so are we really giving the voters the ability to substantively affect change if we are able to amend their petition and then change what they pass at the ballot?
I think so. I mean, we don't have to do that. And if we were going to just do that, I wouldn't be standing up here, offering to do a ballot initiative to begin with if we were just going to turn right around and change it.
I understand that we don't have to, but this does give us the ability to as a body, correct?
It does. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Gentleman from Adams, Mr. Johnson, for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Gentleman, when you opened your explanation of the bill, you said you wanted to offer this bill to restore the ballot initiative. That's what you said?
Yes, sir.
And so restoration usually means you're replacing something in the way that it was before. That's my understanding of the definition. Well, I can read the definition. You want me to read the definition of restore to you?
Why not?
Okay. I think you understand that.
Yes, sir.
Restore means to get it back to as close to its original form as possible. Now, but that bill doesn't do that. As a lady, without going through it, from Hines already outlined, you add veto power from the legislature or initiative power to the legislature. You also prohibit the vote on abortion. Do you remember the personhood amendment?
I don't.
The personhood that was on the ballot, it dealt with abortion. You remember how the state voted on that?
I do not.
And so you're saying that the will of the people of the state of Mississippi, those same people who say they want the ballot initiative restored, they've expressed their will, and you're saying, I'm not going to let you do that again. Is that what you're saying with this bill?
No. To have that...
Well, you're prohibiting them from voting on something that they've already voted on, and that personhood dealt with abortion, and you're saying, you did it once, I'm not going to let you do it again.
Well, to answer that, I'm going to stand up for the rights of the unborn. But they don't have a voice, and that's why it's in there.
And so the rights of the people of the state of Mississippi, their constitutional right to have their voice heard, you're going to prohibit that when it deals with a subject that you have a certain opinion about.
Again, that's why we're here.
We're here to, as you said, we're here to restore the ballot initiative. That's why we're here. But that's not what we're doing. Let me ask you this: have you read the Supreme Court opinion on this issue?
I have not.
If you would indulge me for a minute, I want to. They outlined the one thing that we needed to do. to restore the ballot initiative. And that is, they said it cannot work in a world where Mississippi has fewer than 5 representatives in Congress, and then you create a ballot initiative that only addresses 4. So they just told us all we had to do was go from 5 congressional districts to 4. Why? That's a simple thing, offer an amendment. That's all the Supreme Court asked us to do. Why isn't we just, if you want to restore the initiative, why don't we just do that?
This was the way that we could get it done.
No.
It is.
Why don't we do what the Supreme Court instructed us to do?
We've been working on it for 3 years. This was the way that we could get it done.
That's not my question. My question is, can you tell me why we in those 3 years we have not done what the Supreme Court asked us to do?
No. I mean, this is what we have worked on for 3 years. So that's going to be my answer.
I'm sorry. Because you've been working on it 3 years, did it matter to you what the Supreme Court instructed us to do?
Sure.
Or why didn't we just do that?
Like I said, I mean, it was a lot of time's been put into this. This is what we came up with, and this is what we're going to go with.
Who is we?
I would say majority of this chamber.
The majority of the chamber didn't work on it. You worked on it in Constitution in 1 day.
No, this has been going on for quite longer than that.
Okay, but the majority of the people in this House didn't get a chance to work on the bill and have their voices heard until you brought it out here on the floor of the House. Isn't that correct?
No, I've talked to a lot of people in here. The majority of people that we have worked with over the past several years. This is not rushed. We didn't just come up with this 5 minutes ago.
You didn't talk to me. Is there a reason you didn't talk to me? You didn't talk to my desk mate. Is there a reason you didn't talk to him?
To who?
Representative Hines. You didn't talk to Representative Harness. You didn't talk to Representative Banks.
But it's a two-way street.
Oh yeah, I've talked to the Speaker about it, and he told me what you had to say about it. All right, I have an amendment at the proper time, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Lady from Jones, Ms. Scott.
Well, the gentleman,
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now, if you would go to your House concurrent resolution, and if we could go to line 17 on the resolution. And the reason why I wanted to go to line 17 on the resolution, gentlemen, is because it states that the legislative power of this state shall be vested in a legislature which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives, but the people reserve to themselves the right to exercise the legislative power of the state to propose new laws. It says that, right?
Yes.
And I was a little concerned when you said to the gentleman from Adams County that you had not read the Supreme Court opinion, because the very first thing that the Supreme Court said was that the people reserve the right to themselves, the right to exercise the legislative power of the state to propose new laws and to amend or repeal existing laws by initiative and to approve or reject the same, where you all added that. The Supreme Court didn't say that. They just said that the people should have the right to exercise and propose new laws, existing laws. So, do you agree that the people have that right, gentlemen, to propose new laws?
They do. They send us up here to do that.
Okay, and you agree that the people have a right to amend or repeal a law if it is through the initiative process, if they should choose so?
Yes, but that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, so now, gentlemen, I guess that's why when I go to, and if you would go to line 23 of the House concurrent resolution, I guess that's what kind of concerns me. Because if we go to what the Supreme Court says, and if we adhere to what this bill says, and what the Constitution, when you start out with the Constitution,
But the Supreme Court put these exact words in their opinion, that the people reserve the right to themselves, the right to exercise this legislative power, this right of initiative and referendum. And you said that you believe they ought to be able to amend or repeal the initiative as they choose so. When we go to line 23 and go to subsection 2, all the way down to from subsection A through G, does that not prohibit the citizens and restrict the citizens from being able to amend or repeal through the initiative process? Do these?
Yes, those were excluded and those were already in there.
Okay, but those things were never in the initial initiative or referendum that was in the Constitution.
Yes, a few of them were in there, already in the initial.
Well, we were always told whenever you have underlined language that it's new. So can you tell me whether under the old initiative, whether the people were precluded from changing a law or amending a law that might have to do with some local or special law?
Okay, I'll read you. There were 3 that were in there. We had, for the proposal, modification, or repeal any portion of the Bill of Rights of this Constitution, to amend, repeal any law or any provision of the Constitution relating to the Mississippi Public Employees Retirement System, and to amend or repeal the constitutional guarantee that the right of any person to work shall not be denied or abridged an account of membership or non-membership in any labor union or organization, and to modify the initiative process for proposing amendments to this Constitution.
Does the old law have in the old law the ability for people to be able to not propose any new or special law if they wanted to amend it? Was that in there?
No.
Okay. And the situation where we all know that this is a right to work state, so we know that that was part of the Constitution. Can you tell me whether the proposed new law to amend or to repeal any existing law related to abortion, was that in there?
No, that was added.
Now, gentlemen, just to stay on that issue for just 1 second, did the people not speak to personhood at one time in the vote here in the state of Mississippi?
That's based off of what we have done by overturning Roe versus Wade.
Okay, but gentlemen, did the citizens of the state of Mississippi have an opportunity to go to the poll and vote on personhood in this state? Yes or no?
Yes.
And when the citizens had that opportunity to exercise their vote in regard to personhood, what did the citizens say about how they felt about personhood?
I don't know. That was before my time. What did they say?
Well, they didn't want it, gentlemen. They didn't want it. And so, and I guess the reason why I'm a little bit concerned that you have this language on line 37 in the bill is because there's a lot of talk. A lot of us talk to each other up in here, and we say, well, the citizens have spoken on this issue, or the citizens have spoken on that issue. Well, the citizens spoke loud and clear through the ballot box on personhood, and of course, you know, they came in here with the Curry bill and changed it. Do you think that this, on line 37 and on line 30, and anything that restricts our citizens, the taxpayers, the people that pay the bills, that restricts their ability to be able to amend or repeal or propose new laws in this state, do you not think that's a right that the citizens should have?
Well, on that line 37, I think it's just a philosophical difference between you and I.
Well, gentlemen, it's not abortion that that I have a problem with, because the citizens have already spoken on that. The problem that I have is restricting the citizens' right to speak on anything. So would you not agree that if you pass this, then when the citizens say they want to pass recreational marijuana, are you going to come in here with this veto power and tell them they can't do that?
No, we are just trying to.
But I'm just asking you, would that be a possibility?
We are just trying to get something, a vehicle to get something to the other side.
Okay,
which we've, third time.
Okay, gentlemen. The last thing, seriously, on this situation with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court did say that Mary Hawkins Butler had standing, that the state was out of whack with the 5 congressional districts and the 4. You would agree with that, right?
Yes.
And then the Supreme Court told us, now look, legislature, this is what you need to do. Go over there and change it from 5 to 4. That is what they said, right?
That is what they said, yes.
Now, in this resolution that you're proposing, are we doing more than what the Supreme Court prescribed?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so
Yes,
much,
ma'am.
Jim. I appreciate you.
Gentleman from Holmes, Mr. Clark.
Would a gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
I think I can make it. Gentlemen, I just have a couple of questions. Now, in the part of the legislation where we have these exemptions on things that cannot be proposed, what is the thinking of the committee and your reasoning in doing that?
It's just we've looked at it. Again, this is not anything new, and we've been working on it, and that's what we came up with.
And gentlemen, you know, we all took 9th grade civics. The most direct form of a democracy is the initiative process. Would you agree?
Yes, but we have a republic, though.
But as far as the concerns of the people, to truly get their desires, you would agree that the initiative process is...
I mean, it's a grassroots effort, yes.
Okay. Now, I'm not sure if we're doing exactly what we want to do. Go to line 35. No, yeah, 35. It says here, and this is the prohibition part of the legislation, to propose any new law or amend or repeal any existing law that appropriate funds from the state treasury. Who would make that determination?
Okay, on that process, it would go to the Secretary of State's office to validate it or not, and after that, it goes, it goes to the ballot.
So, my reading of that, any proposal that's going to take any money from the state treasury would be prohibited from the initiative process.
No, it's similar. Yeah, it's similar to the amendment process that we have with our appropriations now.
Okay.
It's not much different.
So it's exactly like our appropriation process now.
Yes.
So let's take the last one that passed. Last one passed was initiated by a former member over here, now Senator Joy Fillingham, Vote ID. That was the last initiative. So in that initiative, when you read it, one of the things is that the state of Mississippi would have to give a voter ID to anyone who didn't have one, which was going to cost the state and appropriate monies from the state treasury. Would that initiative be prohibited pursuant to that section?
No.
Why not?
No, I mean, it would be an appropriation. No, what you're saying is, I mean, I see what you're saying, but no, it doesn't work. It's similar to, I mean, or the same as what we currently have with our appropriations now.
So although the bill, the language of the initiative says that the state of Mississippi would have to incur costs, you telling me that this section that says that appropriate any funds from the state treasurer will not apply?
Correct, because
Okay.
it is like our current amendment process to
There's an
appropriations
active
now.
initiative going on now dealing with school vouchers, which school vouchers by its very nature is taking state dollars, appropriating those dollars to private schools. Would that initiative be prohibited under pursuant to that section?
No, that would not be excluded. It's just if it is a straight appropriation
Fully
ballot.
funded education, would it be prohibited?
No.
So help me understand. Give me an example of one that would be prohibited.
It'd be something like appropriating $1 million to MDA, just a straight appropriation.
So what if the Secretary of State, for whatever reason, say it? Do this legislative body have the authority to trump his decision on making this call? Because ultimately it's not going to be us. It's not going to be you. It will be the Secretary of State, correct?
That's correct.
Why are we second guessing the citizens? These same citizens are smart enough to elect us and send us to this body, but it's almost insulting that they don't have the sense enough to vote on certain measures. That's almost insulting to me a little bit.
Well, I disagree with you. I mean, we do not have a process for them right now, period. And we're trying to get something for them, an avenue. And again, we're just trying to get it to the other side to where we can keep negotiating.
Well, the easiest way to get it to the other side, especially requiring a 2/3 vote, would be to do exactly what the Mississippi Supreme Court gave us to do. If we're just trying to get it to the other side, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'm going to disagree. We ran into some issues on that with the other side the past 2 years. So I just don't think so.
And we all faced the questions on the campaign trail about the initiative process. And I'm willing to bet 99% of us told our constituents that we was in favor of the initiative process. On the campaign trail, did you tell them you was in favor of it with all of these restrictions? Do you think the citizens of the state of Mississippi would be happy with these restrictions, with limiting their powers and their ability to exercise their voice?
They want a process.
You think they want this process?
I think they do. I think they do.
I would disagree with the chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think it's going through the
Gentleman from Hines, Mr. Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentlemen, if you would help me on a couple areas of this. I was around some years ago when this was first passed, and I know at that time, you know, we talked about you had to have 20% of the electors from all 5 of the congressional districts at that time. But since that time, we've gone from 5 districts to 4 districts. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that is why we're here today, because we're at 4 districts and not 5, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And is that threshold, I see, is not 20% anymore. It says 8% of the electors of the state of Mississippi, regardless if they voted in the election or not. So is that number higher or lower than 20%?
It is higher.
It is higher.
Yes.
So can you give me some actual numbers
Yeah,
of what it would be based on the last gubernatorial or any gubernatorial election, the 8% versus the 20%?
As of the last election, that number would be about 153,000, and originally on the initiative, it was like 112,000.
Okay, all right. So is that making it easier or harder?
It's a lot of signatures.
Sir?
That's a lot of signatures.
Okay, I want to hear you say it. The other part here is it says, I think under the old law, maybe under this law too, that if an initiative comes out to be voted on, that it only has to get 40% of the vote to pass. Is that correct?
Correct.
So 40%.
Hold on.
40. Oh.
Yeah, it's a majority on the vote on the initiative.
Sir?
A majority of the vote on the initiative.
Okay, but I'm saying 40%.
That has to be equal to 40% of all the votes in the election.
40%. But of course, 40% is not 50%.
It's not.
It's not 50%, it's 40%. Okay, so I always hear about on our board, majority wins. Now, my other area of question deals with subsection F on line 37 when we talk about abortion. Now, we know the Dobbs decision. We've heard of Roe versus Wade for all our lives. And so now we're saying that no law relating to abortion. Now, when we talk abortion, are we talking about a woman's right for the morning after pill, for birth control? I mean, how far does this go if they had an initiative to say a woman shall have a right to birth control pills, whatever? Would that be excluded under this? Can you tell me?
I'm not debating the specifics of it.
You're not familiar?
No.
Well, it's out here, gentlemen. You got it out here. You rocking this baby.
Yeah.
So I want to know.
Yeah.
Where are we going with this? How far are we going with this?
It's abortion.
Okay, just abortion. How about morning after pill?
That
you don't know?
No.
How about birth control pills? Do you know?
No.
You don't know, but you ask us to vote for this and the women to vote for this.
That's not in the scope of what it is. No.
Well, gentlemen, I think you got too many questions in here that I don't have answers for me to support this. Thank you.
Okay.
Gentleman from Oktibbeha, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to offer an amendment at the appropriate time.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll make note of that. Gentleman from Tallahatchie, Mr. Rosebud.
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion at the proper time.
State your motion, gentlemen.
My motion is to hold this bill to May 6th.
Would you restate your motion, gentlemen?
My motion is to hold this resolution until May 6th. That's a certain date. Yeah. It's in the book. I can hold it. What's wrong? No, listen.
Unless I know the rules.
The chair will speak to the gentleman's motion. That is the equivalent of a motion to postpone indefinitely, which is a majority vote. So I will put this vote to the House now. If you favor the gentleman's vote to postpone this indefinitely, indicate by saying aye. If you're opposed, no. Noes have it. The noes have it. Roll call is demanded. There's insufficient number. We're back on the bill. Gentleman from Rankin, you're recognized. Questions on the bill. Gentleman from Washington for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman Yield.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, a lot of conversation has, I lost my spot. A lot of conversation has taken place around the lines about abortion. I don't want to have a discussion about that. I want to talk about the language up under that section that talks about the right to work. So, if you would be so kind to answer this question for me. What happens if an initiative took place in this state to raise minimum wage from $7.50 to $15 an hour, and people got the right to, they got all the signatures, they hit all the benchmarks, and then they brought it here? What would happen?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
So if the citizens say they want to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour, we could say, no, y'all can't.
It would just mean, I mean, it wouldn't apply under that, what you just mentioned, that right to work.
Okay, so what if they pass the initiative to say, we don't want Mississippi to be a right to work state anymore? What would happen? What would happen with that?
Well, first we got to get a process.
Well, so you assume that the process is coming. I'm trying to make sure. Would you not agree that if the process is in place, then people have the right to pick and choose what issue they want to put on the ballot?
That's what it's there for. Either that or get with one of us who represent them.
Okay. So, gentlemen, are you aware that there was a time in this legislature where we authorized cockfighting?
That was before my time.
Well, a lot of this stuff is.
Yeah.
However, what happens if the citizens of this state decide to legalize cockfighting?
That they could put it on a ballot if we have a process.
Okay. So, the reason I'm asking is because these are things that possibly could take place in this state.
Has that come up?
Huh?
Has that come up to you?
About cockfighting?
Yes, sir.
Oh, cockfighting, slot machines, dice shooting, a whole bunch of stuff. People want to raise money revenue for our retirement system. Were you aware of that?
I was not aware of that, though.
Okay. So, gentlemen, and the reason I'm asking is because these are issues that everyday Joe is concerned about. In this state, what happens with the right to work if a person wants to organize? Could that be placed on the ballot initiative and we could overturn it?
No, that's excluded.
Okay. So, I guess the last question I have for you, why are we doing this if it's the will of the citizens that should prevail? Why are we putting parameters in place to kill the will of the citizens?
We are trying our best just to get them something, an avenue.
Well, to piggyback off my decimate, if the Supreme Court said all we need to do is change from 5 to 4, then why do we have all these extra parameters placed in this legislation when all we need to do is move from 5 to 4?
They're not in the House of Representatives.
Say again?
They're not in the House of Representatives.
Oh, but so gentlemen, would you not agree with me when we can't have our way over here, we run across the street and get what they want, get what we want? Is that not what the governor did when he wanted veto power? He ran across the street to the Supreme Court and got the authority to veto appropriation bills. Is that not correct? Is that not correct?
If you say so.
Oh, well, you're not serving here in this body? You're not aware that he can veto appropriation bills when he chooses to?
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
So where did he get that authority from? Where did he get that authority from? From across the street, right?
Well,
the Supreme Court gave it to him, right?
Well, but it's executive
Are they across the
authority.
street? Are they across the street?
Yeah, they're across the street.
Okay, so are we saying now it's good enough for them to tell him he can do what he want to do, but we can't follow what they say to do over here? So why we got apples and oranges when everything seems to be the same piece of fruit?
I think about it differently, gentlemen.
Well, how do you think about it? Help me explain, because I don't understand that. If what's good for the goose ain't good for the gander, then I mean, I'm confused. Help me out. Sort me out.
For the last time, we are trying our best to get the people something.
So we're gonna give them a bunch of junk rather than fixing what the issue was, 4 to 5.
I'll disagree with you on that, but thank you.
Gentleman from Pike, Mr. Porter, for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentlemen, will you yield?
Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. Gentlemen, are you a Republican?
I am.
Okay. And in the state of Mississippi, your party has a supermajority. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so is it safe to say that the majority of voters in the state of Mississippi voted Republican?
Yes.
Okay. So, gentlemen, my question is, if that's the case, then why don't you trust your Republican voters? So in this initiative that you have before us, if they have the initiative can come back to us and we can amend it or put an alternative up, correct?
We could, yes. We don't have to.
So why put that language in there if you trust your Republican voters?
To kind of answer an earlier question, for the past 2 years, we have tried to pass a bill that was real pared down. It went nowhere.
Do you trust your Republican voters?
I do.
So why not remove the language that brings it back to us that can alter it or amend what they put forward?
This is what they want.
They want the legislative body to come back and amend their initiative or come up with an alternative to their initiative.
Yeah, this is what we have been working on. This is what we have heard from our voters.
Gentlemen, I got to tell you, my voters didn't say anything like that.
All right.
So I'll ask you one more time, just for good measure. Do you trust your Republican voters?
I do. I also trust that they sent me up here to represent them, just like they did you.
Even if it's to overturn their will and their voice?
I think this is the right way to handle it.
To have the ability to overturn their voice?
Again, the last time, this is the way we're going to handle it.
All right, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Gentleman from Hines, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman, yield?
Yes, sir.
You know, I've been sitting back listening to this debate back and forth. Is there any reason why we are rushing this, seemingly rushing this particular initiative through this body?
We're not, again.
It just seems to me that we're leaving the people out of this process, although you're constantly saying that we're not. why are we rushing this the second week of reassemble?
Well, I disagree with you. Again, like I've stated, we've been working on this thing for 3 years, and the process isn't over. So we get it down to the Senate, and we can continue to work on it.
Lady from DeSoto, Ms. McCray.
Gentlemen, will you yield?
Yes.
I'm kind of disappointed in this HC because I was a sponsor of an initiative, and when I was a sponsor of an initiative, I was in control of it. I didn't have to come back to legislator and ask them, was this okay to do this initiative? And yes, my constituents sent me down here to be a voice for them. So when I'm down here and trying to be a voice for my people, and I put out a bill every year, and my bill dies in committee, and my constituents ask me, why did it die? And all I can say is, I don't know. That's when I decided to do the initiative to sponsor a bill for my constituents to have a voice, not to come back to legislator for them to change some things or alter some things or do that. They wanted their voice to be heard without being altered. With this bill, deep down in your heart, do you really think we're doing the people justice? Because once that initiative is done, all that hard work is done. And we bring this back to you guys, and you guys say, no, all our hard work was done in vain.
I don't, if I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't have brought it up. And if we were just going to come change something, like you said, and I think I actually said this earlier, I wouldn't be standing up here trying to get the people what they want.
But we don't know if you're going to change it or not. And we're going to do all this hard work not knowing if you're going to accept it or you're going to decline it. And I think a lot of people are going to feel like me too. Why am I going to do all this work? And I take it to the legislator and they decline it. That's all I got to say.
Yes, ma'am.
Gentleman from Madison, Mr. Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, my question is this, and I'm a freshman lawmaker, and so I may have missed something, and so just bear with me, okay? When was Roe v. Wade first overturned? Was that in around June 2022?
It was last year. I don't know the exact date.
It was in June of 2022, if I'm not mistaken. And since that time, since the post-Roe era, which began in June of 2022, there has not been a ballot initiative in the state of Mississippi that addresses a woman's right to choose at all. Has there been?
There's not. There hadn't been a process.
Right. And so before the people of the state of Mississippi even have an opportunity to decide whether or not they would like to introduce a ballot initiative or push a ballot initiative that would address that issue, doesn't your bill at the onset eliminate and take away that ability from the voters to decide that for themselves?
It excludes abortion, yes.
Right. And so doesn't excluding abortion at the beginning in a post-Roe era that just began less than 2 years ago, doesn't that defeat the spirit of the ballot initiative altogether?
I don't think so. Again, as I've stated on the abortion issue, that is a large majority of this House has worked on that for a decade.
a decade, but Roe v. Wade hasn't been overturned for a decade now, has it?
So, no, I don't think it does.
It hasn't been overturned for
No,
close
I-
to it.
yeah.
Roe v. Wade hasn't been overturned for close to a decade, has it?
No, to your earlier question about does it kill the spirit, is what I was saying.
Okay, so you don't believe that it kills the spirit of the ballot initiative, but isn't it a fact that in districts and states throughout this country, in the post-Roe era that we currently find ourselves in, have decided that they both want to, on one hand, elect conservative leaders, but on the other hand, they want to approve ballot initiatives that either increase or preserve a woman's right to choose? Isn't that a fact?
Rephrase that.
In the post-Roe v. Wade era, right, since June of 2022, aren't there districts in states throughout this country that have on one hand decided that they want to elect or re-elect their conservative leaders, but on the other hand they want to increase or preserve a woman's right to choose?
I'm not understanding.
You don't follow politics like that? Well, I'll tell you that it is a fact that in multiple states in this country, in recent elections, both midterm elections that have happened since Roe v. Wade, they have decided that they want to elect or re-elect their conservative leaders that they have, but at the same time they also want to preserve or increase a woman's right to choose through the ballot initiative. And so I think that your bill presumes that your constituents who elected you to represent them, although they elected you to represent them, they still would disfavor a ballot initiative that would preserve or increase a woman's right to choose, even though you have never even put that before them, correct?
Gentlemen, that's your point.
That is my point,
Yes,
but it's also a question to you. So doesn't your bill presume that the people who have sent you here to represent them, although they have sent you here to represent them, would not also support a ballot initiative that increases or preserves a woman's right to choose? Yes or no?
Yeah, we just differ philosophically. My people sent me here for that reason, and yours sent you for what you're stating.
Well, you say your people sent you here for what reason? You said it, not me. So
Yeah.
I'm just following up so that I can.
Well,
be clear.
it's excluded in this, and it's going to stay that way. That's
And so
my answer.
Is what you're telling me in this body is that although your constituents have not had an opportunity to address a ballot initiative,
Mine have. This is what I hear from the people in my district.
have your people in your district ever had the opportunity to decide whether or not they would like to support a ballot initiative that addresses a woman's right to choose? Yes or no?
They have not, because there's no process
And
to do
before they
so.
even have an opportunity to do that, you're saying that there won't ever be a process for them to address
There isn't
that.
a process to do it.
Well, not if you exclude abortion, then it's not.
Well, there is not a process.
Right. And so you're taking that right away, not just from your constituents, but from mine also. Is that correct?
That would be assuming. And
Well, no, I'm not here to assume.
Again, I'll end it with this. We don't have a process to do what you're saying right now.
Right. And so at the onset, before anyone in the state of Mississippi has
Gentlemen,
had
you've asked that question at least half a dozen times. Let's
Okay.
move on with your questioning.
Well, that's the only question that I have.
He's
but
answered it to the best of his ability.
I disagree with that, but I will take my seat.
Thank you, gentlemen. Gentleman from Harrison, Mr. Hullum.
Chairman, will you yield?
Yes, sir.
Quick question, Chairman. I want you to do one thing for me. I want you to look left and look right. Can you do that for me? Look up in the galleries. Look left and look right.
Gentlemen, let's keep our questions to the resolution at hand. We're debating the resolution with some interrogation on the resolution.
Gotcha, Speaker. And the question is, we've been saying we're open for business. We've been saying we're open for business in the state of Mississippi, and everything we do to make sure the people know we're open for business. And my question to you is this: if the people in the gallery who's getting ready to finish nursing school or doctor schools, if they're against this, but they have not and don't have a chance to vote, they don't have a say in this matter? Are we truly open for business for the people who disagree with the ones who voted for you?
We are trying to get them a process to do just that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. Gentleman from DeSoto, Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will you yield?
Yes, sir.
I would just want clarification. I look at line 112, and to clarify, it says that the people shall have the right to place something on the ballot. It does not give the legislature, us, this body, to amend that at all, correct?
Correct.
There is one exception. There is an exception of public safety for less than 2 years. So if somebody wanted to draft an amendment and put it on the ballot, let's abolish the speed limit, 100 miles per hour. That would allow the legislature in public safety to prevent that, correct?
Correct, yes.
You know, I'm a freshman lawmaker as well. Did the previous initiative, the one that we had that was struck down, did it have safeguards in it before it was struck down? They had right to work in
Yeah, there was a legislative alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I keep hearing about this Supreme Court decision in Dobbs. Is it true that when they held that position and they issued out their opinion, it says the authority is returned to the people and their elected representatives? Is that correct?
Yeah, they invalidated it due to the districts.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, is there anything in this resolution that prevents anybody in this body from drafting legislation and putting it forward based off of the best interests of their constituents?
No.
Thank you. And my last question, does this initiative that we have before us today, does it restore the people's voice to be able to be heard in the state of Mississippi?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I yield.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. Gentleman from Adams, Mr. Johnson, I believe he has an amendment. Gentlemen, you want to explain your amendment or have the clerk read it?
She can read it. Not the whole amendment, just the title.
Amendment number 1 by Representative Johnson, amend by striking all after the resolving clause and inserting in lieu thereof the following.
So I introduced a bill. I heard the gentleman from DeSoto ask, is anything prohibiting anybody in the legislature from offering a piece of legislation to restore, something to the effect of restore people's right to have the ballot initiative? Here it is right here. It's right here. But you know what happened to that bill? No, because I don't either. It's not before us. It's not in any committee. I don't know where it is. But now we have a bill here today that allegedly restores the right of the initiative process to the people. And in that bill, it does everything but restore right. It prohibits what you can talk about. It increases the signatures. And it says if the legislature doesn't like what you voted for, the whole state of Mississippi, if they don't like it, they can overturn it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not direct democracy. That's what the initiative and referendum is. They have us, but we provided them with another vehicle, direct democracy. When they're dissatisfied with what we are doing, or when they think we don't have enough time to do what they need us to do, they say, we will take the time, we will gather the signatures, and we will have our voices heard. That's direct democracy. As my good friend from Pike County said, but some people here don't trust their voters. They don't trust the people who voted for them. They won't allow the people who voted for them to have their own voice. If all we are going to rely on is representative government, then just come here and say we're not going to give you an initiative process. We're not going to let you have direct democracy. Just say that. Just say that. Don't come up here with a bill that restricts what you can put on a ballot. Don't come up here with a bill that says that the legislature can say, well, if we think that it affects the budget or the appropriations process, then we won't let it through. Or if we don't like it, we'll do that. Don't do that to people. That's not the initiative and referendum process, and that's not direct democracy. What this amendment does, this amendment says that the Supreme Court said one thing, that it's unconstitutional for you to gather signatures in districts less than 5 when the Constitution is set up for 5 districts. That's all they said. They said it's a simple process that as a Supreme Court we cannot do. What they said is, but the legislature has a process that they can do. They can amend the Constitution, and this is what this is. This is an amendment that we give to people. We send it back out there and put it on the ballot, and people can say, this is the process that we want. But what the gentleman from Rankin has up here is nothing like that. And the gentleman from Washington is right. When the governor, not the governor, when the speaker and the speaker pro tem and the chairman of Ways and Means said that the governor cannot have the power to do what he does in a veto process, they went to the Supreme Court. And when the Supreme Court ruled against them and the governor started line iteming the bills, this leadership didn't say, we don't like it. They didn't say, Governor, I'm going to override your veto. They said, well, that's what the Supreme Court said, and that's what we will rely on. But when you're doing something for the people of the state of Mississippi, when you say, I'm going to give you direct democracy, you turn around and say, now, what's good for me as the Supreme Court is not good for you. And so we're going to take it away from you. Now, if you really wanted to send something over to the Senate for them to give you something to negotiate about, send them a clean bill. Give them a gut check. Send it over there and say, look, we sending the initiative, direct democracy process back to the people. Because when we sent a bill, it wasn't as clean as my amendment, but it was cleaner than that. When we sent it over there to them, they junked it up. They messed it up. But now we're going to outdo them. We're going to junk up the bill more than they did and send it to them and say, well, let's see what you can do with this. So, ladies and gentlemen, this amendment is a direct message to the people that we represent. We're giving you direct democracy back to you. We're giving you the initiative and referendum process. We're doing what the Supreme Court said in a simple process. We're going from 5 districts to 4. And let me correct myself. My good friend from Tate County, he didn't sue the governor. It was the speaker and the speaker pro tem. I'm sorry. I'll say he's got plenty to answer for, but not that. That's not him.
Gentleman's time has expired on this amendment.
Please support the amendment. Please vote for the amendment. Thank you.
Gentleman from Montgomery, for what purpose?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first I have a parliamentary inquiry.
You're recognized.
If a member of this chamber was to offer a motion to table this amendment and you were in favor of tabling the amendment, the proper vote would be an aye. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'll make a motion at a certain time.
State your motion.
Motion is to table this amendment.
Gentleman from Montgomery moves to table the gentleman's amendment. If you favor that motion, indicate by saying aye. Aye! Opposed, no. No! The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Roll call is demanded. There is sufficient number. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. If you favor the motion, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 80 yeas, 36 nays, the motion carries. I believe the gentleman from Oktibbeha has an amendment. Gentleman from Holmes, for what purpose?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
You recognize.
Mr. Speaker, on the motion to table, under the rules are the ones opposed 5 minutes to speak against?
I believe it is.
I was seeking recognition.
I didn't see that you were recognized till now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'll look for you and assume you'll oppose probably the next one. Gentlemen, you're recognized for your amendment. You going to explain it? Have the clerk read it.
Please have it read.
Madam Clerk's recognized.
Amendment number 2 by Representative Taylor, amend by striking all, including the resolving clause and inserting in lieu thereof the following.
So,
you're recognized, gentlemen, to explain your amendment.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, trust me, I had some very powerful words to deliver. Unfortunately, Leader Johnson has stolen my thunder and has very well laid out the claim that this is not a clean bill. The best thing we can do is to deal with the constitutionality of our congressional districts and restore it to the previous bill. The idea that we just need a vehicle to take across the hall, I reject. The people of Mississippi deserve much better than just whatever we can do in tough times. We need to deliver the best we can for the state of Mississippi. Let me say this and I'll take my seat. This is a slippery slope. At the end of the day, whether you are for or against abortion really doesn't matter in this bill. Providing a vehicle to tinker with the Constitution anytime we get ready to go against the people's will is what we're doing right now. This is not a ballot initiative process. This mutes voices of our people, and the idea that just because there is a ruling party in the House and over on the Senate side that it represents the rights of women, children, and family may not be exactly what your constituents actually believe in. I ask you to support this amendment and vote against the bill.
Gentleman from Wayne, for what purpose?
Motion at the proper time.
State your motion, gentlemen.
I would move to table the gentleman's amendment.
Gentleman's motion is to table. If you wish to favor the gentleman's motion, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Roll call is demanded. There is sufficient number. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. If you favor the motion, indicate by voting aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. A vote of 76 yeas, 37 nays. The motion carries. All right. I believe the gentleman from Hines has asked to speak on the bill. Gentleman from Washington, for what purpose?
Inquiry. You know, this is the second time this has happened. I understand your urgency to rush this thing through, but this gentleman who made that motion and went at the table, he wanted to be recognized to speak against the motion to table. He had a right, it's under the rules, 5 minutes. And why are we being cut off from talking about this, Mr. Speaker?
I didn't attempt to cut him off, gentlemen. He did leave the podium.
I know, because everybody confused about what's going on, because it has to be some direction here.
He offered the amendment.
He started walking and walked back up there to do it, and you called for the vote before he got back up there.
I didn't see him walking back. I saw him leave the podium when the gentleman...
I'm closer to him, man.
No rush, gentlemen. Gentleman from Hines, you are recognized to speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to be very brief. The gentleman indicated that he wanted to utilize this as a vehicle to go across to the Senate. I submit to you that this vehicle is a Ford Pinto. This vehicle is not worthy enough to go across the Senate. If you ever looked at the reason why the Ford Pinto was one of the worst vehicles created by GM was because it burst into flames Ford Pinto, because it burst into flames upon any accidents or collisions. And we just today, this afternoon, talked about pledging allegiance to the flag. And we talked about liberty and justice. Well, where's the liberty and justice in a woman choosing what to do with her body? Where's the liberty and justice in defending what women do and what they need in their lives. We have a room full of women in here, and we, as a body, are telling them once again what to do with their bodies. There is no conversation of women who have been raped by criminals, and we're talking about excluding abortion on a ballot initiative. That's not liberty, that's not justice. We're talking about the welfare and the care of a wife or a mother, I should say, that may have some complications during birth. Where's the liberty and justice in that? So I submit to you that we should vote no against sending this Ford Pinto across to the Senate. It's not worth it. Please vote no. Thank you.
All right. Gentleman from Rankin, do you wish to close on the resolution? I'm sorry, gentleman from Warren, Mr. Denton, for what purpose?
Questions, Mr. Speaker.
Question to the chair?
Yes. You
You're
have a
recognized.
majority vote on the board now. It started off as saying it's 2/3 votes. So
it's a 2/3 vote.
Okay.
The amendments were majority votes. That may be where it got changed and back, but it's a 2/3 vote. Thank you, gentlemen. You're recognized, gentlemen, to close.
Let's just take it to the board. We've said all we could say, and I know everybody wants to be out of here.
All right. Question now recurs on the adoption of House Concurrent Resolution number 11. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. If you favor the resolution, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 80 yeas, 39 nays, the resolution is adopted. Anything further, Mr. Chairman? All right. Announcements by the clerk's office. Yes, sir, gentleman from Washington. We will do that. Thank you, gentlemen. Gentlemen, to your question of the chair earlier, I will call for those opposed to that motion to have 5 minutes. It's my mistake, and I thank you for bringing it to my attention. There's no intention here to rush. It's a lot like driving a bulldozer, gentlemen. No pun intended. Announcements by the clerk's office.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There are 11 of you, and I'm not going to read the names, but 11 of you, you know who you are, that have not been downstairs and had your picture made. Please do that before 4 o'clock. Before 4 o'clock. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Madam Clerk.
Ways and Means will have a full committee meeting in room 201H at 3:30. Appropriations A will meet at the conclusion of Ways and Means. Drug Policy will meet at 4 o'clock in room 114. Universities and colleges will meet at 4 in room 204.
Announcements by the members. Gentleman from Jones, Mr. Scoggin.
Mr. Speaker, with your permission, can we have a universities and colleges meeting right now, and then those that missed Ways and Means can go to the appropriations meeting?
You're the chairman, gentlemen.
Universities and colleges will meet right now.
Thank you, gentlemen. Do they know where to meet?
204.
204. Madam Clerk has one more announcement. Y'all give her attention.
Tomorrow in room 114, Marine Resources will meet at 1 o'clock.
Gentleman from Union, Mr. Creekmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, the health meeting today at 3 o'clock has been canceled for the House. We'll reschedule for a later date.
Lady from Lincoln, Ms. Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Corrections will have an organizational meeting tomorrow in 113 at 11 o'clock.
Thank you, lady. Any further announcements by any member? I don't. Lady from DeSoto, Miss Remack.
Yes. Could the clerk? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mr. Speaker? Yes. I'm sorry. What vote did you capture on mine for Amendment 1? Because my intention was to vote yes.
We'd have to, you can check with the clerk's office about that.
Okay, thank you.
As long as it doesn't change the outcome, we'll be sure we got it right.
Okay,
It was a motion. Thank you, lady. Lady from Jones, Miss Scott,
You, Mr.
for an
Speaker.
announcement.
I have an adjourn in memory, Mr. Speaker.
You're recognized.
I would like
Give the lady your attention, please.
I would like for the House to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like for the House to adjourn in memory of Dr. Martin Luther King's youngest son. He lost his battle with prostate cancer. His name was Dexter King, and we will get the information to the King Center.
Thank you, lady. We will do that. Okay, I don't see any further announcements. I'll recognize the gentleman from Rankin for a motion to adjourn until 9:30 in the morning for our normal course
I
of
move
business.
that the House stand adjourned until 9:30 tomorrow.
Gentleman's motion is the House stand adjourned until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. If you favor that motion, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House will stand adjourned.